On February 12, 1999, Carole Sund, her 15-year-old daughter Juli, and Juli's 16-year-old friend Silvina Pelosso boarded a plane in Eureka, California. After a quick flight to San Francisco, they collected their bags and rented a red 1999 Pontiac Grand Prix sedan. They set off on a journey east towards the University of the Pacific in Stockton, California. Juli was competing in a cheerleading competition the next day and was considering attending the school after graduation. After an hour-and-a-half drive, they arrived in Stockton, checked into their hotel, and settled in for the night. The next day, Juli competed in the cheerleading competition, and afterwards, the trio explored the campus and the surrounding town. Early on February 14th, they checked out of their hotel and embarked on a 3-hour drive southeast to Cedar Lodge, a sprawling motel complex just outside Yosemite National Park's western entrance. They planned to spend a few days sightseeing in Yosemite before meeting Carole's husband and Juli's father, Jens, at the San Francisco airport. From there, the family would continue their journey to Arizona to explore the Grand Canyon before returning home to Eureka, California. Arriving at Cedar Lodge around midday, the women checked in and were given the keys to room 509. Exhausted from their travels, they decided to have a low-key afternoon and evening, spending most of their time in their room. The next morning, the trio set off early for Yosemite. They spent a magical day exploring the park, marveling at the astonishing cliffs, snow-covered mountains, giant sequoia trees, and beautiful meadows. Juli and Silvina even went ice skating on a frozen pond. As the sun set, they returned to Cedar Lodge, dined at the lodge's 1950 S-style diner, rented VHS tapes from the front desk, and retreated to their room. They changed into their pajamas, watched a movie, brushed their teeth, and went to bed, unaware that their peaceful night was about to turn into a nightmare. A few minutes after turning out the lights, they heard a knock on their door. The following day, February 16th, Jens waited anxiously at the San Francisco airport for his wife, daughter, and her friend. As time ticked away, he hoped they would appear any moment, but they never did. Without a cell phone, Jens had no way to contact Carole, who also did not have a cell phone. Assuming a miscommunication, Jens boarded the flight to Arizona, hoping to find his family there. Upon arrival, he discovered they were not at the hotel and had made no contact with the front desk. Desperate and worried, Jens spent the day calling friends, family, and anyone who might know their whereabouts, but no one had heard from them. The next morning, when Carole and the girls had still not made contact, Jens finally called the police. The police contacted Cedar Lodge, learning that the women had checked out early and the room appeared in order. The car rental company confirmed that the rental car had not been returned. The police launched a massive search in and around Cedar Lodge and Yosemite, but found nothing. A breakthrough came when Carole's wallet was found in Modesto, California, 2 hours west of Cedar Lodge. This suggested a third party was involved in their disappearance. On March 18th, a hiker found a burned-out car matching the description of their rental. Inside the trunk were the badly burned bodies of Carole and Silvina. Juli was not found, raising a glimmer of hope she might still be alive. However, hope was dashed when an anonymous letter with a map led police to Don Pedro Lake, where they found Juli's remains. The investigation initially focused on half-brothers Eugene Dykes and Michael Larwick, arrested on unrelated charges. Eugene made self-incriminating remarks, and fibers matching those found on Carole were found on the brothers. The police assured the public that they had the killers, but no formal charges were made. 4 months later, on July 22nd, Dr. Desmond Kidd, the medical director for Yosemite, was called to assist in a search for another missing person, Joey Armstrong, a 26-year-old naturalist. Her friends had reported her missing when she failed to arrive at their house in San Francisco. A search party found Joey's body near her cabin. Her head had been severed and the scene was horrific. Police quickly connected her murder to the previous murders through a distinctive blue 1979 International Scout seen near her cabin. This vehicle led them to Cary Stayner, the handyman at Cedar Lodge. Under questioning, Stayner confessed to all 4 murders, shocking the police who had initially dismissed him as a suspect. He had been inspired by a long-held fantasy to kill. Cary Stayner's detailed 6-hour confession provided a chilling account of the events. On February 14, 1999, he noticed the women's car and became fixated on them. The next day, he followed them to Yosemite, watched them enjoy their day, and then trailed them back to Cedar Lodge. He observed them having dinner, renting movies, and settling into their room. At 11 p.m., Stayner knocked on their door, posing as a handyman checking for a leak. Carole reluctantly let him in after he insisted, and once inside, he pulled out a gun. He tied up Carole, Juli, and Silvina, putting the girls in the bathroom while he assaulted and strangled Carole. He then carried her body to the trunk of their rental car. Next, he assaulted and strangled Silvina, placing her body in the trunk as well. Stayner then turned his attention to Juli. After assaulting her, he cleaned the room and loaded their luggage into the rental car. He drove Juli to Don Pedro Lake, where he assaulted her again before killing her and disposing of her body. Stayner's meticulous planning and manipulation misled the police for months. He returned to the car to torch it, dropped Carole's wallet in Modesto to confuse investigators, and sent a map leading to Juli's body with a taunting note. Stayner later confessed to Joey Armstrong's murder, recounting how he abducted and killed her. His confession detailed his gruesome actions and his lack of remorse. Cary Stayner was sentenced to death and is currently awaiting execution in San Quentin prison. The discovery of Carole's camera, which contained images of the women enjoying their time in Yosemite, added a haunting layer to the tragedy. These photos, taken just before Stayner's attack, remind us of the horrific events that unfolded. Despite his confession, Stayner showed no remorse for his actions. His history added another layer of complexity to the case. As a child, his younger brother was kidnapped and held by a pedophile for 7 years, an experience that profoundly affected Stayner. Cary Stayner was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In state court, Stayner pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity to the additional murders. His defense argued that a history of sexual abuse and mental illness within the Stayner family contributed to his actions, as well as his obsessive-compulsive disorder and a bizarre request for child pornography in exchange for his confession. Dr. Jose Arturo Silva testified that Stayner suffered from obsessive-compulsive disorder, mild autism, and paraphilia. Despite this, Stayner was found sane and convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder with special circumstances and 1 count of kidnapping by a jury on August 27, 2002. Since his sentencing, Stayner has been housed in the Adjustment Center on death row at San Quentin State Prison. Although Stayner remains on death row, there have been no executions in California since a 2006 court ruling highlighted flaws in the administration of capital punishment in the state.